The University of Southern California expelled a student athlete due to charges of sexual assault, even though now the victim, allegedly, of that sexual assault says it never happened. So this is the story of Matthew Boermeester, the 23-year-old kicker on the USC football team, USC, which now is like number 4 in the nation. He won the Rose Bowl for the Trojans last year by kicking a last-second field goal, even though that team shouldn't have been in the Rose Bowl. And he is still dating Zoe Katz, who's 22, and she's one of the captains of the tennis team there. Previously, they had been caught by law enforcement after there were allegations that he had assaulted her. And witnesses said that they saw him with his hand around her throat and she was gagging. But since then, she has said, I made it very clear to USC that I have never been abused, assaulted, or otherwise mistreated by Matthew Boermeester, not on January 21st, 2017, and not ever. SC has still expelled him, and they have started to release more documents that seem to indicate that she now is misrepresenting the truth for whatever reason, but they say that they're gonna keep going forward with their discipline at this point. They said they have released things saying that she sent a text message to one of her friends, to someone saying, he can't know that I made a statement. And other things like this, but where do you draw the line? This is all circling around something called Title IX. Title IX's been around for a while, and it was bolstered by the Obama administration, putting in more focus on making sure that you immediately address any accusations of sexual misconduct. But fundamental underpinnings of Title IX are equality between the genders on college campuses. And so she also has said, I understand that domestic violence is a terrible problem, but it in no way applies to Matt and me. I don't know what to do in this situation. What do you guys think?
I mean, where do we
rough.
I mean, she also said, I'm ashamed because I haven't left, but I'm afraid to leave.
Right.
This was back when it was all unfolding. She says, I haven't left, but I am afraid if I do leave, it will be much worse.
Right, yeah, and in that article, there were like so many things that were happening at the beginning when it happened. Like they had people who actually witnessed him with his hands around her neck. She was screaming. I mean, those people have no motive to lie about it.
Right.
Apparently he may be a draft prospect in the NFL, which could be a motive for her to be like, he didn't do this, like, maybe she
stick
is
around
afraid.
to get half that money.
Yeah,
right?
and like, she's in that article also, it said that some of her friends actually saw some bruising and maybe some redness around her neck. So it seems like
they heard
all
screams,
signs,
they heard things.
Yeah. And they said
and
later, and then the story later was that, I think I have it here, the noises in the alley that night in January were, quote, loud consensual horseplay, is what they say. A neighbor asked if Katz was all right, and Katz responded that she was fine.
Here's the thing.
What's the thing, Heather?
I'm gonna tell you the thing, Jason. It seems to me, and I think we've all come to the conclusion that it did happen and she's trying to cover it up, and that is what we all think, and that is what the general consensus thinks here. The problem is that we, as the general consensus, we're not law, you know what I mean? And like, even though it seems so clear to us right now that she was covering it up, it happened, it seems very clear. But at the end of the day, can we really ruin his life because of it if she's not willing or feels like she can't come forward? And I mean, for me, I'm just like, yeah, like kick him out. I'm siding with her because I'm a woman and I feel for her, and I can feel like I could be in that same situation too. But at the end of the day, that's not what the law is. We as the people don't get to decide. So I don't know, I'm so conflicted.
It is, it's very conflicting, but I think USC's standpoint is we're going to investigate this even more because any kind of allegations of sexual assault or sexual abuse are egregious and heinous. 1, 2, what happens if something comes out that this actually did happen? USC didn't take the proper precautions or proper steps to. So then now USC as a private institution that's like loved and reveled in Southern California and across the nation will have a huge scandal on their hands. They don't want to have to deal with that. You have endowments, you have all these things that come into play when it comes to universities that they have to protect their ass too.
Also, this is a university that is just fresh off of massive sanctions levied against them for things like Reggie Bush getting a car. And then you have other schools under intense scrutiny, such as Penn State, for letting the sexual assault of minors happen for years on their watch with nobody saying anything. And then certain evidence coming up that seem to imply that folks knew about it and still didn't say anything about it. I get it. What do you say about the idea that potentially she's staying with him because she might have some kind of Stockholm syndrome, or it is an unhealthy relationship?
Codependency, you see it all the time. You see, it's battered woman syndrome, yes? You see it all the time. I mean, I've had friends who have stayed in, I wouldn't say potentially abusive relationships, flat out, dragged out fights all the time, and they acclimate their mentality to be, well, that's just how we love. That's just how we it's like
they normalize it.
Big Little Lies.
Big Little Lies,
and how they had such a tumultuous, violent relationship, but they stayed together for whatever reason. That's why. So we will never ever know. This is all speculation, of course. We will never ever know what or the items or the elements of their relationship. But you have to read between the lines. Things did happen. Things went down. And I'm not mad at USC for investigating it.
I think they did the right thing. I really do. Absolutely. And they're covering themselves, and they are taking steps. And even, I mean, the witnesses say one thing. They are not law enforcement either. If they don't want to take it criminally, if she doesn't want to take it any further than that, then that's fine. But I think USC did the right thing.
Legally, there's a bunch of different kinds of law. There's criminal, there's civil. You can be found not guilty of a criminal case, but still be held accountable for monetary damages. And then on the other hand, you have organizations like athletic organizations. Right now, Ezekiel Elliott, he's a running back for the Dallas Cowboys, and he has been suspended for 6 games, but he hasn't been found guilty of anything. So what the NFL is doing is upholding his suspension, but not enforcing it on the first week, because I think they're trying to buy themselves some time to find if there's some kind of closure. But if they're going to err on one side as USC, I think on the side of being against domestic violence. There's one more aspect to this, and that is Title IX, which I mentioned earlier, which is the initiative essentially that's centered around equal opportunity and protection for all. And now Betsy DeVos, who's the head of the education, the Secretary of Education, and has not said anything about DACA since it came out, even though she's in charge of education, and it applies to kids of undocumented immigrants who are going to school as part of DACA. She has not said anything about that, but it seems like she is going to review DACA or Title IX and quote respond and pull back some of its regulations. So that's something to look at.